See summer months approach, will we see a renewed protest movement, or will these executions have a chilling effect? Well, for more, I'm joined by Azadeh Bourzand, who's a senior fellow at the Centre for Middle East and Global Order. Her writing focuses on freedom of expression in Iran, or perhaps lack thereof, is what you are concentrating on. Azadeh, I wonder, what do you believe is behind the resumption of these executions?
Yes, thank you for having me. Well, as I think the Islamic Republic of Iran is a regime that has now for over 4 decades tested the effect of executions on the general public, and is by experience of the belief that it can effectively use the death penalty, executions, as a way to instill fear and as an intimidation technique. It has historically used it in particular in ethnic minority areas of Iran, for example, in the Kurdish areas or the Baluch areas that have a disproportionate share of the executions every year. And I think at this point, whether we are looking at protest-related executions or non-protest related executions that have also spiked, in my opinion, they are both serving the same purpose, which is for the regime hoping that it would be an effective intimidation technique, essentially to prevent and disperse any further protests and uprisings that would be essentially the continuation of what we saw in the past year.
So what did you make of the international community's response in the immediate aftermath of Mahsa's death and of the original spate of executions? And what more do you think needs to be done at this point?
Yeah, you see, I think it's, the Iran case is a complicated case, because if you look at it, you look at it day by day, you see that the international community, the West, has, done things like joint statements. You see, Iran's violations of human rights, and in particular the death penalty, coming up at the UN. You see various mechanisms at play in peaceful ways in order to push Iran to be a more responsible player on an international stage. However, at the same time, I think that this regime is not showing that it is correctable, it is reformable, it's deeply unaccountable, and the culture of essentially lack of accountability is what continues. So in my opinion, we basically have to, the international community has to be much more robust and much more towards holding the Islamic Republic accountable, holding the individuals and the entities involved in basically what is arbitrary deprivation of life in this case, and gross violations of human rights accountable. Here we are talking about a regime that has shown over and over that is not going to reform itself unless it truly faces punitive measures by the international judiciary means, in my opinion.
Yeah. Very, very, very difficult to really sort of ring fence what it is that the international community can do at this point. But you made a very good stab at it there. Look, we've seen a wide variety of activism in the Iranian diaspora community, and we have reported on much of it from the outset of this back in September. At the Cannes Film Festival, an Iranian model wore a dress with a noose to bring attention to executions in Iran. She was criticised by some as using this opportunity as a sort of attempt at self-promotion on the red carpet. I wonder what you made of that, what you make of that sort of activism, and whether you believe it genuinely helps.
Yes, well, I think I also have seen the criticism. I read it, and to some degree, my personal feeling was also that it was, it was in a bit done in a way that at least I am not used to. But what I want to here highlight is the role of the Iranians abroad. The Iranian diaspora has, in my opinion, done a magnificent job in the past 8 months, really bridging the voice of what's happening inside the country and echoing it on the international scale. And if you're talking about at least Western democracies, you know, raising awareness among the general public, whether it's in France or in the US, in the UK, and so on, hopefully will basically put pressure on these governments in the West to do further and to do more in order to hold the Islamic Republic accountable. So while the criticisms in some cases stand, like this one, in my personal opinion, I still don't want to dismiss the importance of activism, the
Right.
Iranian diaspora activism, and beyond, everywhere on every international stage, because we are talking about an extremely brutal and violent regime that is killing children and young people day in and day out.